Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session. So glad you guys have joined us today to learn something new or just to be inspired. So today's session, of course, is how to take amazing family photos with your iPhone with Ilze Venter. So iStore Meets, for those joining us for the first time, is a series of workshops and events which is brought to you by the iStore. So we have a whole lineup of workshops, and these are hosted by product trainers and industry experts to help you learn more about the products you love, to connect with, to create with, to get fit with, and also to be more productive. So the iStore Meets program covers a variety of topics to help you now and also in the future with things like fitness, productivity, education, creativity like today, and a whole lot more. So these are hosted online now and also at your closest iStore in the future. So yeah, please feel free to visit our website to find out more. There's a whole range of topics available. So go to myistore.co.za/meets. Yeah, and we'd also like to interact with you during the workshop today. So please say hello in the chat panel. If you've got any comments or just want to say hello, that's fine. Use the chat panel, please. And then also, if you have any questions, please make use of the Q&A panel. So you'll see in Zoom, there's a little Q&A panel. So please use this for all of your questions, and we'll try and answer them during or maybe at the end of the workshop. So lastly, and excitingly, we also have a monthly competition where you could win a 5,000 Rand iStore gift card. So to enter, you need to post a picture of your home setup while watching this workshop. You can also post any tips you've learned, your illustrations on iPad or photos you've taken on iPhone like today. And you can post them to Facebook and Instagram using the hashtag iStoreMeets. Please just be aware that Instagram and Facebook stories, unfortunately, will not be entered into the draw. So with that, happy to hand over to Ilze. And yeah, welcome everybody.
Just turn my sound on there. Hi everyone, I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome, welcome. I see we're from all over the country. This is amazing. I am saying hi to you all from like a cold, cloudy morning in Johannesburg. I hope you're all having great weather. So my name is Ilze Venter, and welcome to my iStore Meets online workshop on how to take amazing family photos with your iPhone. Now, I am so incredibly excited to have you all here to join us. And thank you for taking the time to be here, and a special thanks to iStore also for having me. Now, I just quickly want to share my screen with you, so just give me 1 second so you all can see my presentation. So as we are entering the second phase of lockdown in SA, I just want to send you all loads of love and light from my side. And I hope during this hour we can connect, learn some new skills, and have some great fun while we're at it. So just to share a little bit about me, I am a storyteller at heart. It is my why. I am very lucky to tell people stories using different mediums like training, acting, and of course, visually through photography. Now, I started my photography journey in Johannesburg 4 years ago, and I've grown my business called I Do Pictures to offer family and couple photo shoots, headshots, personal branding, and events photography. I absolutely love photographing people. I don't have a studio. I'm a lifestyle photographer, and I shoot with purely natural light as much as possible, like either outdoors, at my clients' homes, or on location somewhere. So my style is to capture as unposed as possible moments and to create warm and rich imagery. Now, you don't have to be a professional photographer with like a big chunky camera to tell the stories of your experiences. You have an incredible piece of technology, your phone, at your disposal. And today I'll be sharing simple tips and tools to empower you to take your storytelling to the next level. So to capture people, loved ones, moments, and things meaningfully and with intention. So what we'll be discussing today, just so you know, we'll be discussing 6 tips on family iPhone photography, which will consist of the following. So it'll be light sources, what they are, where to find them, and how to use them. Framing, which will be all about composition and the rule of thirds. Some technical tips on like zooming and focusing and things you can do on your camera app. Then posing and how to capture natural moments. And then we have number 5, we have catch and release, which is about organizing your photos. And then lastly, we're just going to look at some basic editing. So I will also be answering some of your questions at the end. There is quite a lot going on my screen, so please bear with me for all of that. So just some practical stuff. This is my first webinar, so please be patient, bear with me. And there's a lot going on my screen, as I said, because you guys popping in questions and the comments and everything. So now and then I will just stop and have a quick look at the comments and see if there's anything that you guys want to answer. Obviously, the comments, you can drop anything that you see that's really working for you, or you didn't know that, or you love this new tip, you're welcome to let me know. And then, as Maria said, you can also drop some questions in the Q&A, and I'll see how much I can answer throughout, but I want to try and leave the most of it for the end. Cool. Then just for you guys who are new, who haven't done this before, this Zoom webinar thing, I can't see you or hear you, but you can communicate with me, obviously, through the comments and the Q&A. So please let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to hear from you. And I'm so happy there are like hundreds of you here from all over the world. We have some people from New York, from Cape Town, from Johannesburg, all over the country. So welcome. And with that said, also last thing is just to keep your phone with you. So when we do practical things, you can just follow along and do them with me. I just want to quickly pop into the comments section just to quickly see if there is something that I need to answer or notice. Just give me 2 seconds. I do use my iPhone to capture these images. Thanks for asking, Vic. And the Annalise says she keeps missing the Q&As afterwards. So basically, I'm just going to, at the end, wrap everything up, and then I'll say, then they'll say like, I'm going to stick around if anyone has any questions. So just stay on the Zoom call and then pop any questions into the Q&A if you have any of them. Awesome. Right, let's do this. Okay. Right, let's get started. So tip number 1 is all on light sources. So knowing how to use natural light and where to position yourself and your subject is probably going to make the biggest difference in your photography. I cannot stress this enough. I'm going to give you some simple guidelines on how to go about this. Now, one of the best tips I can give you is to find the light, meaning the sun. It is your best natural light source. So if you're shooting indoors, find a space that is naturally well lit. Don't use electrical lights. So the best place inside your homes would be near a window or near a glass door. So that's where you're going to find your best kind of light. If you're shooting outdoors, always shoot in the shade. So always find some kind of shade spot, and then have the sun behind your subject, not in front of them. So you'll see in the photo in the middle of this slide, the sun was behind this family, but it was being diffused, meaning softened, because it was shining through some trees and some leaves. So that's very important. Cool. Then try and avoid any artificial lighting, and especially your flash on your phone. So I would suggest actually turning your flash off at all times and making sure you always position yourself rather and your subject in the best natural light. Unless, of course, it is nighttime. There is, of course, a time and place for using a flash, but if you know how to use natural light, it is actually your best friend. So the reason for this is your flash emits a very bright burst of light, which is very unflattering and can cause those like creepy red eyes in photos. And it only also lights the subject you're photographing, not the rest of the scene. So they will be very light, but everything behind them can be super dark. So to turn your flash off, all you have to do is open your camera on your phone and then tap on the lightning button at the top left of the screen. So if it has a line through it, it means it is off. You can obviously always turn it back on if it is nighttime and there's absolutely no way you're going to get a photo if you're not using your flash. Cool. Then it is important to look for the right kind of light and how you are positioned towards it. So in the photo on the left, the person who was taking the photo was faced towards the window when taking that photo of me and Lily. So I'm on the right side, Lily with her cute little pupster is on the left. So you'll notice how harsh and bright the light is behind us, and subsequently also how dark we appear. The photo on the right of this slide is the one that I was busy taking of Lily. Now you can see Lily was in the exact same spot, but because the angle I was shooting at was facing her away from the window, the light falls on the side of her face and like evenly lets the space behind her as well. It creates a much warmer and softer light just because of the changed angle. Do you notice the big difference that it makes, right? Now, in these examples, I also placed them near a window, but I didn't use the window as the background. Now, the photo on the left, you'll notice the window was on the right, so it's still filling the room with natural light, but it's not the background. And then for the photo on the right, the portrait photo there of Ansel, there I was standing in the window actually and taking the photo inwards into the room. And this allows the light to fall evenly on her face, and it's also very soft, diffused light. It's not as harsh as that previous picture that was taken of me taking the photo of Lily. Cool. Then, when you're outside, you want to position your subject so that the sun is behind them. But the light from the sun should definitely be diffused. Diffused means just softened. And that happens when it is shining through some trees. It's not direct sunlight on them. So it is shining through some leaves or trees or whatever you can find just to diffuse that light a little bit. So if it was just the bright sun behind them without the trees, then it would have the exact same effect as that photo in the window where it's too bright behind them and they're going to be too dark. So you'll lose a lot of details in their clothing and in their faces, which is not something that we actually want. Right. So it might take some time to train your eye to see and understand these different lighting conditions. So to make it easier for you, let me show you this really easy trick. I call this my 360 trick, and you can use it for taking selfies or when you're photographing people or objects. It works in any one of those cases. So basically what you're going to do is just going to open your camera app, and you set my phone over here. You're just going to open your camera app, and then you're going to take a photo, right? So basically all you're going to do is, let me just see if my phone's in the screen. I'm going to hold it like this, take one photo, then I'm going to rotate 90 degrees, take another photo, rotate another 90 degrees, take another photo, and then also towards the back. So then what happens is you're going to end up with 4 different photos with different lighting because of the different angles. And what you can then quickly do is just review them and see which angle, which lighting looked the best. So it's so incredibly quickly. So whether you're photographing family members or your pets or even like plants or food, anything like that, you can actually just move around it and see which lighting angle looks the best. And once you've done this enough, it's really going to train your eye to start seeing, oh, I think I should in any way not be facing a window when I'm taking a photo. So let's face this way and see what it looks like. It is a great, great tip, and it works really well. Cool. All right, I just quickly want to pop into the questions again. Let's quickly do that. So Vic is asking, would the sun behind a subject not give a silhouette effect? How do you get that exposure balance? So Vic, that's a very good question. And the thing about that is exactly to not shoot directly into the sun if there's not something in front of the sun. So for that other photo, if there weren't trees behind them blocking the sun kind of, then I wouldn't be able to get them in a good light. You won't be able to really see their faces, then it would silhouette. But if you're positioning so that the sun is shining through some trees, something's kind of blocking the sun, making it softer. Even clouds can do that. So if it's an overcast day, that's actually perfect. And then when you do that, it won't create that silhouetted effect. It will actually create this beautiful effect behind them of the sun coming through the trees, like golden light surrounding them. So try that next time and see what the difference is. So Leon is asking, I struggle with taking photos at night. Any tips, please? We'll get to that in a little bit. There is a low light feature on your iPhone that activates automatically when it senses that it's too dark around you. So that's actually awesome. You don't actually have to do anything. It switches on your iPhone automatically. So that's really cool. Thanks for your question, Leon. Right. Now, Lene is asking, let's say you are taking a photo with a specific object that stands still, a building or a landmark, and the sun is facing directly on it. How would you manage the sun then? So she's saying on holiday, sightseeing is usually a struggle. So Lene, thank you for your question. This is a very good question because obviously sometimes we want to position people so that they are in the shade or something is blocking the sun, and which is obviously not always possible, especially when we're traveling. So the amazing thing about your phone is it automatically adjusts the exposure depending on what you're pointing your phone at. So when you're doing that, it should automatically change. It's not like with we photographers with an actual camera, we have to adjust those settings ourselves and do it manually. With your phone, your iPhone is absolutely amazing in doing that. It'll change the exposure automatically. I'm going to, a little bit later, just quickly switch to my camera app, so I'll show you how to adjust that exposure while you're in the app. But thanks so much for that. Right, I'm going to get back to my presentation. Thanks for all your questions. I'll definitely answer some more in a bit. Just share again. Cool, so now you know more or less where to shoot, but another extremely important thing is to know when to shoot. And this is, I think, also going to answer a lot of your questions in terms of bright light. So magic hour or golden hour is what we call that time, the hour after sunrise in the morning and the hour before sunset in the afternoon. So to give you an idea, in Johannesburg, I do all my photo shoots, whether indoors or outdoors, either 7 a.m. in the morning or around 5 p.m. in the afternoon. Obviously, unless it's some kind of event, then that's not, you're not gonna like have a party at 7 a.m. in the morning, which is very understandable. And with that, luckily your phone adjusts as much as possible. But if you're doing like a shoot of your family or just people in general, that's not an event, then definitely try and do it around those times. Also, if you live in a place where the sun rises and sets at different times, so not necessarily 7 a.m. or 5 p.m., Cape Town people, I'm talking to you, Western Cape people, then you'll have to just adjust those times to whenever the hour is after sunset and before, after sunrise, sorry, and before sunset in the afternoon. So just adjust the time, see when that is. You can actually just Google that, sunset time, Cape Town, 18 April 2020. Then it'll in the results, it'll show you what time the sun is setting, and you want to be shooting an hour before that if it's in the afternoon. Cool. Why do I shoot during magic hour? Now, the light from the sun is at its absolute softest, most flattering, most diffuse state, which makes it very easy to work with. It doesn't cast like dark shadows under your eyes like it would in the middle of the day. So it's like a natural Instagram filter actually, and it often makes the light look very warm and golden, as you'll see in these photos. These aren't, these were taken on my phone. I did edit them a little bit afterwards, but of course I can't, unless you're like a Photoshop whiz, create that like golden, amazing magic light around them without having the actual light there. So it really does make a massive difference. Cool, and that is your first tip on light sources. So I just quickly want to check the Q&A section again to see if we have any questions. So Monique is asking, does your shadow not block the light when you're in front of subject and the light behind you? So I think you're referring to that photo where I was standing in the window. So yes, you are right. If you are standing in the wrong position in the window, you will definitely block some of the light. So make sure you just move a little bit to see that you're not in front of them. So you can move slightly off center and then take a photo from them there. So just hold your phone out and just move out slightly away from your phone. Then that should solve that problem. And again, the 360 trick. So make sure, even if that's not a complete 360, you're just doing a few little shots to see where you're standing, where your phone is, where would be the best spot to take a photo of there. Cool, then Do you use any external filters with your iPhone when taking photos? So I never put on filters when I'm taking the photos. I will always put it on after. So the idea is just basically that you're really focusing on what you're taking photos of and being in the moment. And then all of the effects that you want, you can actually add afterwards. You don't have to do it while you're taking photos. If you're using an actual camera also, that's not even possible. So it's good to just get used to taking the photo as is, and then afterwards you can go add any of the effects that you want. So the last picture looks like a different type of lens. So that was actually the same lens. I have an iPhone 11 Pro, and it has it has 3 lenses. It's awesome. It's amazing. I so love playing with that. But the one is an ultra wide angle lens. So I was standing actually in the same spot. It was just zooming out on its own. So it is a really great, we'll get to zooming in a bit so I can show you the differences. But I was just using my iPhone. Cool. And then, so Liani is asking if there are no trees, clouds to diffuse, would you still recommend having the sun directly behind the subject people? Very good question. And the answer is no. So if there is nothing to diffuse the sun, so sometimes we still want to take photos, but it is in the middle of the day and you don't want to miss moments just because it's a different time of day. So in that case, then you won't have the sun directly behind people. You'll move them a little bit. So then actually that 360 trick is going to really help you. So don't angle them so that the sun is behind them if there's nothing to diffuse the light, because then it is going to create that silhouetted effect. And if that's not what you want, then yeah, rather angle them away and move around them and take a photo in all the different angles to see where the light is the best. But if you can still put them in the shade, I definitely recommend that. Jason is asking, is it best to use HDR to reduce the exposure? So Jason, your phone, you can turn HDR on your iPhone. It is called Smart HDR. And it basically what it does is it combines different exposure pictures into one so that you still get the details in all of the shadows of your photo and also the highlights. So I would actually just suggest keeping that on. You can turn it on in your settings on your iPhone and then actually just let it do its thing. Mine is always turned on just because it has a really great effect. It's like very smart technology. Awesome. I'm going to get back to my presentation. Thanks for all your questions, guys. Let me quickly share my screen again. So tip number 2 is all about framing. So as a guideline to help you learn about composition, a great place to start is the rule of thirds. So this rule just basically states that you should divide your image that you're taking, so what you're seeing when you're turning your camera on, into 3 parts horizontally and vertically, which means you'll end up with 9 blocks, 9, as you'll see on the images on the screen. So with both of them, my grid, it's called a grid. So it's turned on my iPhone. And I always use this. It also helps you to just get straighter lines, especially when you're taking photos of like landscapes or buildings or anything with like very strong lines in it. This grid is amazing to help just get that straight from the beginning. So the idea is that when you have this grid, to position the point of interest of your photograph on the intersections or along the lines of this grid. So you'll see with the photo on the left, they're kind of on the bottom 2 intersections, where the photo on the right, she's kind of focused on the top left intersection. So this is really just a guideline. Please don't let it limit you, but it is a great place to start if you really want to take your photography to the next level and you want to teach your eye like what to look for, where to see, and where to position things in a photo. Now, you can activate this grid in your settings on your iPhone to always display it, like the ones you see now. So this is our first practical. You can take out your phones quickly. I'm going to share my phone screen, and then I'll take you in the settings to where you're going to activate this. So let's quickly do that. Right, so I hope you can all see my phone screen now. You're going to go into your settings, right? And then mine is quite far down, so you're just going to keep scrolling down your settings until you find the camera. So there's my camera option. You're going to click on it, and then you'll see there's a little slider where you can turn your grid to the on position. And when you do that, when you then open your camera app, it'll have it'll have that grid on there, so you can start playing around with it and seeing how it influences your photography. So I'm just going to leave mine on, obviously, because I always have mine on. Amazing. So then the second part of this framing tip is to try to take photos vertically. So with your phone in portrait, so vertically and also horizontally. So you can take the same photo with both of these and just see what it does to your photo. So sometimes it has a different effect that you didn't expect. So it's good to always like take a landscape photo and a portrait photo. So just remember, when you're taking a portrait photo, so when you're taking a landscape photo like this, it's to turn your phone anti-clockwise, not the other way around, because then it's gonna your photos are gonna be upside down. So when you're turning it landscape, always turn it anti-clockwise. You'll also see the lens on your camera is still at the top, and that's what you want. That's just a little nifty thing if anyone was ever wondering why some of your photos come out upside down. It was very frustrating to me until I figured out, oh, okay, anti-clockwise, there you go. So the same thing would count for video, just FYI. Cool. Then also try and move around to take pictures at different angles, but of the same setting. So in these 3 photos that you see on your screen now, they were sitting in the exact same spot, but I was moving around them to get different angles that tell like a different kind of story. So the more obvious one maybe would be the one in the middle where we're just taking a photo straight on. But then the other ones I was taking actually from the top down to get like a different angle. And I'm also not just necessarily taking photos of people's faces all the time. So the photo on the right, it just looked really cute to me that their feet were like close together and there's a dog in it. So automatically, I just love that photo anyway. Cool. So that is your framing. And so let's just quickly have a look here. Bradley's asking, how do you focus on if someone has beautiful eyes or a smile to get the best out of this? I'm going to do this in a second with the technical tips that we're going to do in a moment. Then let's see. Taylor is asking, do you ever find that clients don't take you as seriously when you do a photo shoot with your phone, only if you have a DSLR? Taylor, this is a good question. I think it depends whether you are an actual professional photographer. Obviously, if I'm a photographer, so if I show up to a photo shoot with my phone and I didn't let them know that this is going to be an iPhone photo shoot, then I don't think they'll take it as seriously. I really think it's just all about communicating that are you going to do a photo shoot with a phone? I mean, also there are a lot of photographers out there who only shoot with their iPhones and who like make incredible photos. So I'm not sure in which setting you're referring to maybe, but definitely communicate. And then also, so if they know it's with an iPhone, then maybe they will take it more seriously. Also, just our phones are so incredible at this point, they should take it seriously. Thank you for that. Okay, so tip number 3 is let's get technical. So this is for, you now know where to shoot, how to shoot, a little bit more about composition. And this is just a few technical tips on your actual phone. So I'm going to be sharing my screen in a bit also. The first thing here is just before you take any photos on your phone, this is really important. Make sure that your front and your back camera lenses are clean. So you can use the back of your t-shirt or a lint-free cloth and just wipe them down. Just to make sure that there aren't any smudges on them or anything, because you can do all you want, but if the lenses are dirty, then you're not going to be able to use those photos and they're not going to look as good. So just definitely make sure that they are clean before you are taking any photos. It's just a good habit to have to just clean them every now and then in any way. Cool. So then I'm going to share my iPhone screen with you, and I'm going to go into the camera app quickly and just show you a few things there. What you can do. So just give me a second. Let me just quickly share that. Right. So you should all be able to see my phone screen at the moment. So I'm going to open up my camera app, and I just quickly want to show you a few things there. So can you all see? That'll help if I just angle it correctly. Okay, cool. So the first thing here is on focusing. So you'll see now, I'm just using this plant. If you were in store with me and we were doing the workshop there, I would use some of you as volunteers, but for now you'll have to deal with my plant. Okay, so you'll see my grid is turned on at the moment. So when you take a photo, you'd rather like move your subject off center so that it's not actually like right smack bang in the middle. So that's the idea about the grid, is that you rather move your subject somewhere off center. So just to the side a little bit, you'll see at this, if it's at this angle, it is now on the bottom left intersection of the lines. So that's just a little bit on that grid. So you'll see mine is always turned on. It's really helpful. Okay, so now in terms of focusing, iPhone is really great at like detecting faces when you're taking a photo, so it'll automatically like focus on them. But you can also set the focus point to a different, to something different if you want. So all you have to do is just tap on your screen where you want the focus to be. And also notice when I do this now, what happens to the light in the photo. So I'm going to tap there on the plant. You'll see it makes this little yellow block with the sun next to it, which I'll get to in a moment. And then if I tap there on the window light, you'll see again, windows are super bright. So I should not be taking a photo like that. The windows are super bright, but if I click on them, you'll see the light changes in the photo. So this is something that your iPhone does, is it'll adjust its exposure when you tap on different parts. You'll see, I'm just going to tap like on different parts, you can see what happens. Mostly it'll change when I'm tapping on something like that is super bright. So that's the one thing on focusing, is you can tell your phone where to focus. The other thing that you can do is to adjust the exposure. So the person who earlier asked about that super, when you're traveling and it's super bright, and your phone will adjust. But if you tap on something, if you tap on that brightness, it's going to adjust it automatically for you. The other thing that you can do is, do you see that when I tap on it, there's a little sun that appears next to the yellow block? And that is actually an exposure slider. So let me just tap on it. You can actually tap on that sun and just move it down or up to change the exposure in the photo. So I can move that a little bit up. You'll see it'll get brighter, or I can make it darker. So this is especially helpful when you're taking a photo of sunset or sunrise, is to adjust that exposure so that the colors of that sunset really, really pop. So you can like move the exposure slider down then so that you can see that. Obviously in that case, the other things in your photo would be silhouetted. So that is just specifically for a landscape, but you can just tap anywhere and then move that slider up or down to change the exposure. Right. Okay, so regarding zooming, so the golden rule with zooming on your phone is please do not zoom ever. Don't do it, resist the urge, just don't do it. So the reason for that is that when you zoom on a phone, you're actually losing quality in your pictures. You'll see, you should be able to see a difference. Like if you're not sure what I'm talking about, take a photo of like anything and just normally, and then zoom into that thing and take another photo. You'll see that it looks very pixelated. It doesn't look great. So don't zoom, please don't zoom. The iPhone, my iPhone 11 Pro has 3 lenses, which is absolutely amazing. And this is how I got these 3 photos. So I was actually standing in the exact same spot, and I just changed it to one of those 3 zoom options. So when you open your camera app, they will automatically be there. So it'll be 0.5, a 1x, which is your normal wide angle lens, and then the 2.1, which is a telephoto kind of zoom lens. So if you click on any of those, for some of the older iPhone versions, it will only have a 1x and a 2. So if you click on one of them, it'll use optical zoom, which means it doesn't compromise on the quality of the photo. So if you do need to zoom, you can use one of those, but literally anything in between is going to compromise because it's using digital zoom. It's using software to zoom. So try and avoid that as much as possible. Always rather move yourself closer or further away from a subject. Yes, just don't zoom. Cool. Taryn is asking how you get the zoom icons on your screen. So they should be there already when you open up your camera app. If they're not there, it might mean that your phone doesn't have that capability and you will have to use your feet, unfortunately. But also it's a good thing. So the more you get used to moving closer and further away yourself, the better. Right. So camera modes. This is what I was talking about. So the photo on the left, the photo mode, that is the one I used for the photo on the left. So this one is for when you want everything in your photo to be in focus. Portrait mode in the middle creates this beautiful blurry effect around your subject. So you can use that for when you're taking photos of anything that you want the focus to be on. So like even a plant or a person or food or anything like that. So it really just focuses on that one particular thing. It's an amazing mode to use. Please play around with that. The pano mode on the right, the photo on the right. This is a really nice mode to use when everything that you want in your photo is not fitting on your camera screen. So you can play around with that, but you're basically gonna click on it, and then you're gonna take it'll take a bunch of photos of a whole thing and put it into one photo as you see there. And this particular photo, this was an accident really, but it created that beautiful flare effect from the sun around it. It was like a happy accident. Okay, now I love this feature that is called burst mode. This is amazing. If you have kids or pets, this is like, listen up, this is awesome. So what burst mode does is it allows you to take a bunch of images of an action that you might have missed moments of otherwise if you were clicking on your own. So what you can do then, if you've taken this like many photos, is you can go afterwards, select your favorite images from that collection that you took, and then you can save them to edit. So you can use this mode with like your kids running, or when you're throwing them in the air, or definitely if you have pets and you've been struggling to take photos of them because they are just moving too much, burst mode is really cool. So it actually takes like a lot of photos really quickly, so to make sure that you don't miss anything in between. Just make sure to just go and select your favorites, and then you can delete the rest. So that's amazing. So on older iPhones, all you had to do is to hold in your shutter button. So that's that white circle that you use to take normal photos with. You would just hold it in and it'll take a bunch of photos until you let go. But so with my iPhone 11 Pro, it has changed slightly because that has a different functionality now. But what you do is just click on your shutter button, hold it in, and swipe it to the left. So then it'll take that like a lot of photos. It's a really fun thing to play with. You see, like this particular series was taken with burst mode, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun to play with. Okay, so when you open your camera app, there's also a cool feature called live photos. Now, its icon is that the few circles that you'll see in the top right of your screen. Now, you can tap on this icon to turn it on or off. If it has a line through it, it's off. So this feature takes a bit of video footage before and after it takes the actual picture, which creates this little live movement of what was happening before and after. It always makes me think of like Harry Potter photos. So it's just a little bit of a movement before and after the photo, which is really cute. It's a really cool thing to play with. So definitely you can play with that, and you can turn it on or off when you're in your camera app. Definitely take some time to play around with all these different camera modes to see what works and when, and it is tons of fun, really. Especially now when we're in lockdown, that is a great thing to play with, like everyone jumping on the bed or whatever you want to do with that. It's really fun to play around with these. Tip number 4 is all about posing and how to get natural moments. So the best way to think about this is not to think of yourself as a photographer, but rather like a film director. So in other words, use prompts that will cause your subjects to move and interact with one another, rather than just saying, smile, because everyone gets super awkward when that happens. So with kids, this is especially easy, as you can like tickle them or throw them in the air, dance with them, and really just be as silly and playful as possible. It will guarantee authentic expressions and laughs, and they'll forget all about the camera. Telling a child to smile when someone is pointing a camera at them has a very low success rate. Yes, so rather do something that is just taking their mind off of things, rather than telling them to smile and look at the camera. You'll get so much more like natural, authentic moments from them. I always think also of posing as not actually posing, but rather setting up a kind of scene and then capturing people interacting, their emotions within that. So while most of us are at home, a fun idea could be you and your family baking cupcakes and using that as a photo shoot opportunity. So everyone will already be relaxed, doing something fun, and you and your partner can like take turns in taking photos of all the different moments that happen in this process. And I'm specifically saying you and your partner, so that you are actually also in the photos. I feel very strongly about moms specifically that really want all the photos, but they never is a strong word, they're not always in the photos as well. So make sure like you give these tips to your partners as well, so that you are actually also in the photos in your home with your kids, with your pets, whatever. Right, you can also do like a picnic in the garden and snap some pictures of the kids playing with the pets, the cute snacks you put out of everyone lying on the grass reading. Like with setting up a scene, I really just mean something that everyone's enjoying already, and then you just taking photos of that. So you can also get really creative with this. Try as many angles of the same setting as possible. So you don't have to like think about 15 different poses that people have to do. All you have to do is just move around and get different angles. So get down on the kids' level, get close-ups of eyes, of hands, of feet, get wider angles, move away so you can see the whole scene, shoot from the top down. So try and take a photo like the typical way you would do it, but then do something else, then move a different way, move to the left, move to the right, move down, anything that you can do to take a photo of that same setting, because I promise you there are so many like cute pictures in there that if you just move, then you'll get them. Okay, tip number 5 is all about organizing yourself and your photos. So I am sending you all subliminal messages that this is fun to do. Look how much the person in the middle is enjoying sorting through her photos. It's not fun, I'm not going to lie, but look at that picture and then think that it is fun, but it's so important. So our phones have limited space, and honestly, we do not need 12 photos of the same thing. So you should always take more than one photo of something, just in case you didn't realize that it blurred or someone blinked, and so that you have options. However, you are not going to use all of those photos. And this step is really as important as any of the other steps. So just remember, delete, delete, delete. So to make it easy, when you go through your photos on your iPhone after a photo session, you can favorite them. So how to do that is you're going to click, there's a little heart at the bottom middle of your screen. And when you click on them, you can see which ones have hearts and which don't, and the ones that don't, you can delete all of those. So for those who are sentimental, I know this is going to be a very painful process. Trust me, I have to go through this every time I do a photo shoot, but it is so important. We don't need to digitally hoard a bunch of photos that you're never going to use. You really just need that highlight reel, basically, of the photo shoot, just the special moments. You don't need all the in-between things. And I know a lot of you camera rolls look like this, so just take some time and actually just delete them. Like you can watch series when you're doing that or whatever, but definitely go through them and delete the ones that are duplicates, people's eyes are closed, or whatever's happening that shouldn't be there. Favorite the ones you want, and then delete the rest. Cool. So someone is asking whether you can adjust the focus and the exposure together by tapping on the screen. Yes, you are going to do that, and then you can use the slider to change the exposure, basically. It'll automatically also adjust according to where you tap, but if you're tapping on the same spot and nothing's happening, then you can just adjust that slider. So someone's asking again about selfies. Your best friend with selfies is to, obviously you need to turn your camera around. So when you turn on your camera app, you're just going to click on the one that switches the camera around to the front camera. And then your best bet would be to never take a selfie from a low angle. So like there's not a lot of people that look very flattering from this angle. So always try to take the selfie a little bit higher than your eye line, and then do that 360 trick. Turn around 90 degrees and see which angle actually looks the best, which lighting looks the best. And that is really going to help with your selfie taking skills. Thanks for that, Michael. Corinne is asking, is portrait mode the same as square mode? So no, the square mode on your phone is really just to adjust the picture. So you'll see often if you take a portrait picture, one that's like portrait like this, if you take a portrait picture and you want to post it on Instagram, for example, there's not enough space, you can't fit the whole photo in. So that's actually really cool from the iPhone, is if you change those dimensions to a square already, then you'll take the photo with the idea that it actually fits into your little block on Instagram as well. So they're not exactly the same thing. But you can have square mode and portrait mode on at the same time. Thank you, Robin, for your beautiful comment. I really appreciate it. She's enjoying all these tips. That's very cool. So Bradley's asking, is there a way to take selfies with a back lens and not the front to get a better quality photo? Not if you're taking the photo yourself, unfortunately. So it's difficult to, like, I mean, you can try it, you can definitely try it, but it's not as easy to know where you're in the frame, which is what the front camera is for, so you can see where you're in the frame. So unfortunately, you're going to have to let someone else take a selfie of you when you want to do that. Someone is asking, how would you rate an iPhone 11 photo quality against a DSLR? So this is very difficult to answer, just because, remember, a DSLR camera is a very chunky camera with lots of technology in it, with one function, and that is to take photos or videos. So everything that's in there is focused on that, where a phone does a million different things at once. So the iPhone 11, I have the 11 Pro, and I absolutely love it. So if I travel, I don't take my DSLR camera with me. I just take my phone because it takes such amazing pictures. The biggest difference I think that you'll notice is if you want to print pictures, the pictures from a camera are gonna, if you're blowing it up quite big, they're gonna look better. They might look better. Whereas with any kind of phone, really, if you're taking a picture on a phone on that small screen, it'll look great. But if you're gonna print like an A3 canvas, that's where you'll see the difference, basically. Right, let's see. Thanks for your questions, guys. Thanks everyone for your lovely comments. I really appreciate that. Cool. I am going to get back to my presentation, so we'll do the last bit, and then I will stay afterwards. If you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer them for you. Let me quickly share my screen again. All right. So we're getting to the end, guys. So tip number 6 is the last one, and this one is on editing. So my style of editing is very natural. I really just enhance the different parts of the picture, like the exposure, maybe the contrast a little bit, the saturation and the vibrance. Those are the ones that I focus on mostly, but it really is up to every person. There's no right or wrong. It's really just your own style and what you like to do. So editing really is that final touch on your images and the story you are telling. So it is really important that you also learn how to do that. So it does make a difference. So if you are new to editing, in your iPhone, there's a built-in editor app that is amazing, and it offers you all the control, or you can choose from filters that it already has. So these photos that you see here, for this presentation, I edited all of them actually in the built-in iPhone editor app. So it's really good. I'm going to recommend a few other apps if you want to go a little bit deeper into this and if you're ready to take the next step. But if you're new, you can definitely play around with your iPhone and all the different settings that it has there. It really, really is amazing. So when you have identified your favorite photos, this is from the previous step. So this is quite important, the previous step, the catch and release. So keep your favorites, mark them as favorites, or with those hearts, and then you know which ones you want to edit. It's going to make your editing process a lot better. So when you have identified your favorite photos you want to edit, you can just click on the edit button at the top right of your screen when you're viewing that photo. And then if we have time afterwards, I can edit a photo live for you so you can see what the process looks like. But you're going to tap on edit, and then there's a bunch of different options that you can click on. There's filters, or you can edit it on your own. There's really amazing capabilities. Cool. So here are the few apps that I can recommend to those of you who want to go a bit deeper into this. I mostly use the built-in editor on my iPhone, or I use the Lightroom app. So the Lightroom app is also really amazing. I do use that for my photos that I edit from my camera as well, so I'm very familiar with it. Again, if you're new, try and just start with that built-in one, just to get used to what the different words mean and what happens to a photo when you use those sliders to intensify something or to make it less, so you can see what actually happens and understand how that works. But I mean, you're more than welcome to use any of these. You can even take a screenshot of the slide if you want, and then go and play around with them. There are some of them that have in-app purchases, but they do have some free options available as well, and they are really fun to play with. So you can definitely use any of those. And those are your 6 main tips to take family photos like a pro. So let's just quickly recap what we did. So firstly, you have your light sources. Use the sun, but don't stand in the window. To get the best lighting angle, you're going to do the 360 trick. You're going to take 4 photos at 90-degree, different angles, and review them and see which angle had the best lighting. Tip number 2 is your framing and composition. So hopefully you were with me when you were turning on your grid in your settings, and that you can actually use the intersections of those lines to position your subject that you are taking photos of. Number 3 is all about the technical stuff. So clean your lens. You can use that exposure slider when you're in your camera app. Use the different camera modes, play around with them so you can understand them and get to know them better. Know which ones you want to use at which moments. Number 4 was about posing. So that's all about when, what to tell people. So try and not say smile for the camera ever again if you can help it. Rather set up a scene and try to take pictures of people doing stuff naturally and interacting naturally, because that's where you're going to get your best expressions. Number 5 is about catch and release. So when you're done with the photo shoot, go through them, delete the photos that are duplicates or people are, blinking or whatever, and delete those and just edit your favorite ones. Otherwise, it's going to clutter your phone and take up all your space. And then number 6 was about editing. So to use your in-app editor, if you're new to this, or even if you aren't new to this, then you can use that. It has really great capabilities. Or then otherwise, just trying any of those apps that I recommended and see or play around with them. Cool. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here with me. I really appreciate it. I am going to stay now and go through some questions that you guys had. I'd love for you to follow me on Instagram or on Facebook. And I'd love for you, if any of these tips helped you, to tag me on your posts on Instagram and Facebook. Remember that competition also where you can win 5,000 Rand, which is amazing. It's an iStore voucher. That's very cool. And if you've used any of these tips and they've really helped you and you've taken a photo and you've posted it, please tag me. I'd love to see what you do. And you're more than welcome to ask me any questions. You're more than welcome to DM me on Instagram as well. I'd really love to hear from you. So thank you so much. I'm going to go through the questions now and see which ones I can answer more. Right, let's see. A lot of people are asking about editing. I might switch over to edit a photo so you can quickly see what I'm doing. How do you enter the competition? All you have to do is post either a photo from your setup of watching this presentation, or if you're using any of the tips I told you about, or using some of the apps or any of that, then to post it to Instagram or Facebook and using the hashtag iStoreMeets. Please also tag me. I'd love to see what you do. Just note that it doesn't count for stories. The competition specifically counts for actual posts. So thanks for that. Right. I'm gonna switch over quickly because there's a lot of people who actually want to edit a photo. So let me quickly switch over to that. Okay. So I just quickly want to show you that I'm getting a lot of questions on portrait mode. So I just want to quickly move to a portrait photo. So if you look at this photo, you'll see that I was just taking a photo of this plant, and the succulent itself is in focus, but everything behind it is blurred. So I took this photo in portrait mode. So what's great about that is you can actually adjust the intensity of the focus and I mean of the blur in the background. So I'm going to quickly do that. I'm on the photo now. I'm clicking on edit, and then this is where we're at. Right, so I hope you're all following along. So let's just start there. At the top left, there's an f4.5. What that means is it is called your depth of field, meaning the intensity of the blurriness of a photo. So you can click on that, and then you'll see at the bottom a slider appears. So I just want to show you the extremes of that so you can see what happens. So if I make it the least, you'll see it's very blurred other than that specific plant that was in focus. But if I make that call it an f-stop, if you make it higher, you'll see now that all the other plants are actually in focus. So when you take a photo with portrait mode, you don't actually have to stress too much about how much blurriness there is. You can go and edit this afterwards with iPhone. So that is incredible. It's so much fun. If you were to do that with an actual camera, that's not possible. That setting is stuck. So in this particular case, this is really, really cool. So you can move that slider up and down. to adjust the blurriness. Then let's quickly look at the next part. Just want to close that the depth of field part, right? So you'll see at the bottom, I am on the option that has a little square block, right? So if I open that up, you'll see there are a few options there. So this is specifically if you took a photo in portrait mode. So you'll see this was the natural light for the photo. You can actually afterward just play with this with any photo you've taken and see what the different effects are. We have studio lights. We have contour lights. You can see all the little differences that happens when I just change this setting over here. We have stage light, which makes everything else dark in the photo except that thing that you were focusing on. We have stage light mono, which kind of does the same thing but with black and white. And then we have highlight key mono. And this photo is obviously very overexposed at this point, but it just makes the background white instead of dark. So you can use any of those to play around with when you're taking this photo. What you can also do, this photo is already edited. So if I tap on my screen, it'll show you what the original photo looked like. So you see there you go. If you see the original photo, you'll see that the colors are quite bland, if I can call it like that. Nothing's really popping from this picture. It's doesn't really say anything. But the moment it was edited, then you can see the differences. So I'm going to move over. You'll see at the bottom, I'm now at the little circle with the dots around it. So there is the first option there is one that says auto. So this is actually a good place to start if you haven't really edited before, because it's going to auto adjust the picture for you. So if I click on that, you'll see it has a few, remember it was edited before. So this is now coming from the original picture really. Then when I clicked on auto, you'll see there's a slider just below the auto button. So if I move that slider around, I'm just going to move it to the extreme so you can see what happens to the photo. You can change the intensity of that setting. So you can also make it quite low, and then it looks like that. So that's just for the auto one. So iPhone automatically detects what your photo is all about, and then it'll adjust it automatically. You can adjust the intensity of that as well. Then I'm going to slide to the next one, which is your exposure. So exposure literally is about how bright your image is, basically. So I'm just going to slide to the extreme so you can see again. So literally making the photo brighter or making it darker. So you can use that slider to change it. Usually I will adjust my exposure to be a little bit brighter, but depending on what photo you took. So if it was something in bright sunlight when you were traveling, you would probably not be changing your exposure to make it brighter. You would probably make it a little bit darker. So that really just depends. Then we have brilliance. So you can slide that up and down to see what happens. It changes the shadows and the highlights. You can see there. So the highlights also is just how bright it is. You'll see if I make it extreme, it's really bright or it's really dark. And that's specifically about the highlights. Everything that is light already exposed in that photo, it'll do that. I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take you just through the settings that I go through when I edit a photo, just to give you an idea. I don't go to each and every one of these. So normally what I'll do is I'll take see there was the original. So I'll take the photo and adjust the brightness slightly, make it slightly brighter. I will go to the highlights and I will actually make it a little bit lower, just sometimes because the sun was super bright. The shadows, I make a little bit darker because that brings out contrast in a photo. So see if I move it this way, it's going to be lighter, that way it's going to be darker. So it depends on what your photo was lacking. You can change that. The contrast, I'll ever so slightly change. It's not a huge change because that you'll see looks like the old-timey photos that we used to have. It's not really my style. So for contrast, I usually change it more or less to there. Brightness, again, you can change that. I'm not going to really touch that. Saturation. So there's a big difference between saturation and the next part, which is vibrance. So with saturation, I'm going to show you the difference quickly. So look at that picture. I'm going to make it really bright. That's like a lot of color. And I can take it away, and you'll see it basically turns to black and white. So saturation is about the brightness of your colors. So let's quickly change to just a normal one. So saturation, I will slightly up in my photos, but the one thing I do focus on more is the vibrance. So you'll see when I change the vibrance, it almost has the same effect, but vibrance a lot of the time just make the photo a little bit warmer, which is kind of what you want if you're into a natural style. It's just a little bit of warmth in there. And then there's actual warmth you can also change if the vibrance wasn't really working on the like yellows and orange tones, if you want to make it a little bit warmer. And I will adjust the sharpness slightly. And that is basically what I will change on a photo. So if you're starting out, you can use those few things and really just work with them and see what works the best for you. One other thing I want to show you is just, this is the settings that you can change on your own. So on your own, meaning you have more control over which parts of the settings you change. But if you don't have the time, or you actually like some of the filters, then you can definitely use those. So to get to the filters that are in this app, is at the bottom, you'll see I'm now at the circle with the dots around it. There's one next to it that has like 3 interlinked circles. That one is your filters one. So you'll see they have a bunch of filters there. So let's just look at them a little bit quickly. So this one is called Vivid. And again, you see there's a slider at the bottom that appears. And that slider you can use to change the intensity of these. So if I move that a little bit lower, you'll see it won't be as intense as if it was there. So you can use that slider to change the intensity of that specific filter. There's a warm one. Again, you can change the intensity of all of these. I just want to show you basically what it looks like. A vivid cool one. So warm would have more orangey yellow tones. Cool would have more bluish tones. Dramatic. This one's contrast is just quite high. Dramatic warm. Dramatic cool. And then you have your black and white. So I never take black and white photos from the camera. I will always edit it afterwards rather. There's a silver tone one, and then you have a noir. So that's basically for, in terms of filters, what you can do. I'm just going to change that back to the original. And then the last thing at the bottom is the little square thingy, and that is basically to crop your photo. So what is cool is with this crop is when you click on it, iPhone would automatically adjust it to make the line straight where it can sense any. But you can actually change it. So you can just click on the sides of the borders, and you'll see you can move. You can crop this photo. If I pinch it, I can make it smaller, or I can zoom in if I just pinch it like this. Cool. All right, and that's your basic editing. So I'm going to jump back in the questions and just check if anyone else has anything specific that I can answer for now. But again, thank you everyone for staying. Let me quickly see if there's anything else that I can quickly answer. So this is a very good question. Lee is asking, do you know any free apps that I can use to create photo slideshows with music? I have like such a cool solution for you. So your iPhone does it on its own. So I'm going to quickly show you how to do that. I'm just going to cancel and discard these changes. And then I just want to show you. So I am in this album is like just a photo shoot I did for the specific presentation. And if I want to now make a slideshow of this with music over it, all you have to do is, you see there at the top where it says iStore 6 March to 16 April. If I click on that part, you'll see there's a little arrow at the right. If I click on that, it opens up this. This is such a cool feature. Now you'll see there's a little a play button at the top right. You see that slideshow is playing already. This is free. This is on your iPhone. You can use that. So you see there's in the middle, there's an option that says show more or select. You can select the photos you want in your slideshow. You can let it show more than there are at the moment. And it has a few options in terms of music that you can choose, which is really, really cool. I just don't want it to be too loud. But there is, do you see there, if you click on that play button there, when you're in there, if you click on the play button, then there's some music options like happy music, nostalgic music. It's like an amazing feature. So definitely please go through that and like make albums of your photo shoots and go and have create a little slideshow there, because then you can share it on whatever platform you'd like as well. Right, thank you for that. That's a really good question. Thank you so much for everyone following me. I really appreciate it. I'm glad this presentation really helped you. Thanks so much. Just want to see if there's anything that I can help. Thank you everyone for your comments. Really appreciate it. Right. Guys, I'm gonna, it's almost time for me to go, but I will definitely be available on Instagram or on Facebook if you want to pop any more questions. I'd love to help you. Really, really let me know. Let's quickly see here just what are the ones that I have not answered yet. Someone is asking, I'm always struggling whether to take a half shot, so cutting the legs off, versus a full shot. How do you decide on which way to go? That is a good question. I would say when you're starting out and you're not sure like what crop you want, is to practice with different angles. So take photos further away, a little bit closer, a little bit closer. So you have different options and see which ones work best for you. You kind of, the more you take photos, the kind of more natural that comes to you. So it really just depends what you want the focus on to be in your shots. It's, if you want full length shots, obviously it's not good to cut off people's feet or legs when you're taking the photo. Try to take a proper full length photo, which is very easy to do with your iPhone. But I would say maybe try take a bigger photo, like bigger meaning put more into the photo, so stand further away so you get more into the shot, and then rather crop it afterwards than you cropping something off that you can't edit back afterwards. Let's quickly see. Thanks, everyone. Someone is asking, oh, this is a good question. Thanks, Sharon. Can you please share techniques on taking family selfies? So this is a really good question, because obviously you sometimes want your whole family to be in the shot. You don't want mom or dad or whoever your partner or whoever's taking the photo to not be in the photo. So the best thing that I can say for that is to use the person with the longest arm to try and get everyone in, or otherwise use the timer. There's a timer on in your camera app that you, so set up the phone somewhere, just make sure it doesn't fall, and set it up somewhere safe, and then use the timer to take a picture of the whole family. You can do that in selfie mode, so then you can actually see that everyone's in the frame. Someone is asking, I often struggle with getting the depth effect at the right frame. Any tips? I often need to move closer and eventually become too close. So if you're in portrait mode, especially, your iPhone will let you know when you need to move further away, which is awesome. Like, you don't even have to worry about that. But I would say that make sure that you're holding your iPhone very steadily so that it's not shaking, because otherwise that often has an influence on the sharpness of your photo. But yeah, then just take it in portrait mode and then go and play with the intensity of the blurry effect in the background. Kiasha is asking, would you recommend printing photos in a photo book from your iPhone? There are actually really cool apps available to print them directly from your iPhone. You definitely can do that. If it is something that you want really big, like an A1 canvas, it might compromise a little bit on the quality. So, but if it's for a photo book, it'll be small enough and it won't, the quality will be good. So thank you for that question. Sharon is asking, won't using other apps for editing kill the image quality? No, it won't. So it imports that photo as is from what the quality was. It's the exporting of the photo once you're done with editing it from other apps that might have an influence. You must just make sure when you're done editing in a different app that when you export it, it's not to a very small resolution, because that will change your image quality. But otherwise, it shouldn't have an influence on the image quality. In framing, have you got any advice in using a flower as an example as frame to create depth? Yes. So that photo I was showing you of the plant, and I'll just get back to it. That specific one. So I was using portrait mode when I was taking this photo, and it automatically creates that depth of field, that blurriness around the photo. So you try portrait mode when you do that. If you just use the normal photo mode, it's not going to create that blurry effect that you want. For the older versions of iPhone, someone is asking whether you have those light settings that I showed you, whether all of them have that. I don't. I'm not sure actually. If they don't have those lighting options, it just might mean you have an older iPhone version. So you can definitely still play around with the editing in the app. It just might not be exactly the same effect as the ones that you see in that portrait mode. Someone's asking, can you use iMovie on your phone? Yes, you absolutely can. It is a really great, it's a really great app. So you can definitely use that. Cool, we edited a photo. All right, I think that's about it. If you have any other questions, I'll definitely be available on social media. I'd love to see you there. Please, again, tag me in your photos if you have any, if you post anything and your hashtag I still meet. I'd love to see that. And then, yeah, chat to you all soon.